I want to start tonight with a quote from Albert Einstein. In light of what you just said, Irma, and those three questions that you ask, Albert Einstein said that the world is not going to be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who stand by and do nothing. How true is that?
Very.
I'm here tonight because Irma has asked me to come and share with you about our campaign here in the state of Florida relative to the textbooks. But I want to talk about the broader problem first. And I'm going to speak for about 20-25 minutes. And then, as Irma said, we're going to have a conversation afterwards. Because we all have a responsibility as Americans. We also have a responsibility as Jews and Christians to live out our faith before a lost world. A world that is bent on destruction, a world that allows and tolerates behavior that is unacceptable and unbecoming of a Jew, a Christian, and an American. We didn't tolerate the world or the nation that we live in today. Unfortunately, it is what it is. And now we, because we're all old enough to remember and know better, we have to turn and guide the next generation back. Because the next generation is not going to be guided back in the direction to strengthen this republic. So I want to talk about the problem. And many of you have been following the textbook issue throughout the United States, not just here in Florida, but the problem with the textbooks is all over this country. In 2012, we had a parent, and for those of you who don't have a copy or a brochure, I encourage you to take one, fill it out, get on our mailing list if you're not on the mailing list. We are looking for PJTN Watchmen to sign up to get involved in their community, because when I'm done, we're going to talk about this effort is a grassroots effort. It has to be done from the bottom up, and Donald Trump is fighting from the top down. But he can't solve the problems in the local community. He's trying to take on the big swamp. We have to take on the swamp in our community. It's our responsibility. We cannot just go to the polls, elect somebody, and say, okay, my job is done. No, there's a lot of work to do. And we have to decide what role we're going to play in it. We had a parent who came to me and said, you'll never believe what they're teaching our children in Williamson County schools. Now, some of you may have heard this story, some of you may not. So please indulge me so I can share this, because it's important to know. Williamson County is one of the top 10 most Republican, conservative, wealthiest counties in the United States of America. It is in the heart of the belt buckle of the Bible Belt. There are churches on every corner. There are no synagogues in Franklin yet. Chabad's working on it, trust me. I'm working on it with Rabbi Techtel. But I will tell you that you would be shocked. I was shocked to know that there was a textbook being used in one of our public schools that had a quote that was tolerated Palestinians blowing themselves up in a Jerusalem restaurant because they were waging a war against Israeli government policies and army actions. This was a quote in a ninth grade textbook, history and geography textbook, human geography textbook in a public school. And if you understood and you followed the Arab-Israeli conflict, you would have known that the quote that was being cited was actually the Sparrow Pizzeria bombing. Do we all remember that incident? 2001? Yeah, I visited there too. Now it's a bakery. It's no longer a pizzeria. The family that owned that restaurant could never come back after that. It's devastating. But this is the quote that was in the textbook. There was no picture of the carnage of that incident. Had there been, our children would have been able to use their critical thinking skills because of what they just read and what they saw, the image that they saw in the book. But no, that wasn't there. Instead, that quote was placed in the chapter that was titled, "Why is Terrorism on the Rise?" Well, as we hear from the mainstream media and the world leaders at the United Nations and past presidents of the United States, that the reason why we have terrorism is because of the Arab-Israeli conflict, or the Israeli-Arab conflict, depending on what side of the issue you come on. But this is now being taught to our children, peddled to our children. And this is the next generation that will grow up and have to deal with this and address this conflict. So we, as the parent the parent brought this textbook over to me to look at, and she also brought some instructional materials. Some of the materials that she brought had a list of sources that the students could look up to cite to do their research for their paper. All of the sources that they made available for the children to cite were all pro-Palestinian Arab sites. There was not one Israeli site, not one Jewish site, not one Jewish historical site. They were all Arab sites. And this was what was being taught to the children in a 9th grade class in a public school in Williamson County. We went through the proper procedure to remove that textbook because of that anti-Semitic statement. We went to the principal, well, we went to the teacher first, then she brought the principal in to the discussion, then we met with the superintendent of curriculum for the county schools, then we went to the superintendent, then we went to the school board members, and we kept going and going and going. And they put together a committee to review the textbook. And they pulled in history teachers from across the county and other leaders from across the county, and they all read the book from cover to cover. And in their final decision, the night that they voted on keeping that textbook and not getting rid of it, they had stated to us that they did not feel that one quote warranted getting rid of a whole textbook. By golly, that textbook probably cost $150. And they had already invested our tax dollars in it. Obviously, the school board in Williamson County is required to read the textbooks to make sure that the textbooks are historically accurate, unbiased, and reflect the values of the community. Well, they obviously didn't do that. So we had to go through a process of exposing what was going on. I knew that if we could just reach the parents and the citizens in our county, because we are such a conservative community, the parents would have been outraged. And we launched a media campaign. We used local radio, local talk show, conservative talk shows. We produced a 60-second public service announcement. FYI, parents, guess what your children are learning in public schools? Because as we researched this textbook, it wasn't just the anti-Semitic, anti-Israel content that was in the textbook. It was the anti-American, anti-Judeo-Christian, anti-West, pro-Islamic content. So as we put this information out on the radio, we had 2,000 signatures for a petition within a week. And we went to the school board meeting the night that they were going to vote whether to keep or to remove that textbook. And I stood up with a list of other parents requesting that textbook be removed. And I told the school board members, we had done everything that we could humanly do possible. We did it respectfully. We weren't argumentative. We went through proper protocol and procedure, filed all the right forms, and we told them, you have heard from us. We want the textbook out of our schools. And we told them, if you do not remove this textbook, we will remove you from office. They voted. They kept the textbook. We went to work. We launched a campaign not only to expose the textbook in Williamson County, but to expose the publisher of the textbook, Pearson Publishing. Little background on Pearson. Pearson is a British-based textbook publishing company. They're not made in America, ladies and gentlemen. So what are the values that they are going to peddle to our children? Well, we should look at the shareholders first. Who are the shareholders for Pearson stock?
Muslim.
Which countries?
England. Saudi Arabia.
Who else?
Iran.
Qatar,
Iran.
not Iran, Turkey, and Libya. These are the shareholders. As we all know, shareholders are interested in their stocks, making sure they do well. Shareholders are also interested in their product, making sure it accomplishes their goal. Are the shareholders' goals pro-American?
No.
Is that their concern, to make sure America is red, white, and blue and patriotic? And no, that's not their goal. This is what is being used. And Pearson, 60% of Pearson sales come out of the United States of America. Pearson is also behind Common Core. Have we all heard about Common Core?
Oh,
There was a bill passed in Florida last year during the last legislative session where the legislature removed any reference to Common Core from the state of Florida, from education, Florida's education. You heard what I said. They removed any reference to Common Core. They did not remove Common Core. They renamed it. Just the reference is gone. And your buddy, Jeb Bush, my buddy too, who is a thorn in my side and Tennessee's side, because he keeps coming to Tennessee with his education initiatives to stick it down our throat, because Tennessee gave him a run for his money that year when we decided we were going to vote to remove Common Core. And he flew up to Nashville, commandeered the Speaker of the House's office, called in all the Republican leadership, and told them, set them down and told them they were going to support Common Core. He came up there to work against we the people. We told our legislature. But the legislature didn't deal with the issue until they found out what was in the textbooks. And then they kept telling us, oh no, the textbooks have nothing to do with Common Core. Common Core is about higher standards. They're not about higher standards. The textbooks do have something to do with Common Core. Look at what is being taught to our children in the textbooks. It is propaganda. It is not historically accurate. It is definitely biased, and it does not reflect the values. We raised such a stink in Tennessee, in Williamson County, and then Rutherford County. We ended up mobilizing parents in a total of 50 counties. The state legislature contacted us and said, we want to have hearings, we want you to come and testify, we want to know what you're finding in these textbooks. They were scared to death. It happened right after the elections for school board. We went to work and we raised awareness in our community. We got citizens just like us sitting here who had no political background, thank God, who had no experience in education, but what did they have? They had a concern and a heart for the direction of our community and our country, our state and our country as a whole. And average people, just like us, decided to run. There were 6 seats that were up that year. There's a total of 12 school board members. 6 seats were up, and guess what we did? We removed every one of those 6 members of the school board because they would not heed the recommendation of the community. That is the impact that one person had. Had that mother not seen that content in that textbook, had she not brought that book to me, had we not launched that campaign, had we not gone through the whole procedure of trying to get rid of that textbook, had we not raised awareness with our state legislature, we would not have removed them, and we would all be sitting back. What was that other one that you said? Not engaged in what's happening in our community. But ladies and gentlemen, we are past that. Pardon?
Bystander?
Bystanders. We're past that point. We have a responsibility if we really care about this nation. How many veterans are here today? This man, with his brothers and every one of the vets, and even those who are serving, are doing it for naught if we're just going to sit here tonight and we're not going to change the direction. I know I hear all kinds of reasons why people can't get involved, but everybody can do something. You can have a leader who will inspire everyone to get engaged. We can all do something, and that's what I'm here to help you all do tonight. I have been traveling across the state of Florida since 2013. When we first launched the campaign, Fox News picked up the story, and Fox ran with the story in Williamson County for 2 weeks. Our superintendent's picture was plastered on Fox News with a phone number. He was getting inundated with phone calls and emails from all over the world. He even made a comment. Of course, I knew where those emails were coming from because we have global supporters. And he was getting emails in his inbox from people all over the world who were telling him to get rid of that anti-Semitic textbook. How dare he? But this is our responsibility now. This is our battle. As I said, Donald Trump can't fight this battle on the local level. And the way we're going to make the quickest change in the shortest amount of time is right here. You have to start with your school board. Why the school board? Because the school board has control of the brains, the minds of the next generation of this country. Every citizen has a responsibility to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. It is our duty as Americans. We are the reason that we have our freedom. And if our freedom is taken from us, it's because we were bystanders. We allowed our freedoms to be taken. Just like Obama. We as a country came to the place that we were because we've allowed. This has been a slow progression over time. Obama didn't happen in a vacuum, didn't happen overnight. This has been because we have been heading in a direction we haven't been paying attention. And now it's up to our generation to fight to return and reestablish our God-given republic. So I want to encourage you all to consider, this is 2018, it's an election year. Where is your school board? Who's following the school board? Who's going to school board meetings to listen to what they're being taught? I want to encourage you as a group, make this your project for this year before the elections. Find out who the school board members are, who's running, where they stand on these issues. And if they don't represent us and they're not concerned about Common Core and they're not concerned about the content in our textbooks, then you need to find somebody in their district to run against them. And then you collectively as a club need to join forces and need to support these candidates as they're running. Work the polls for them. Make the phone calls. Do what you can. Make a contribution to help them. We have to put these people in places of authority to represent our values. You know, there's a great scripture, all of you I'm sure are familiar with it, in the book of Nehemiah. Nehemiah was given the authority by King Cyrus to go back and rebuild the walls of Jerusalem because they had been torn down. And he went and assessed the damage, and Nehemiah went to the leaders of districts in front of sections of the wall, and then he went to people who lived in front of other sections of the wall, and he convinced all of them, just rebuild your section. And what did they do? They laid bricks with one hand, and they had a sword to fight in the other. Because laying those bricks and rebuilding that wall did not come without a price. There was a fight, and there is going to be a fight for us to take this country back. But you have to take the action first, and you have to fight the battle in your local community. I'm telling you, when we were able to remove every one of those 6 members that were up for re-election on the school board, it gave us so much satisfaction. It gave us hope that we were just a ragtag army who mobilized together in our community with a common purpose to defeat these people and remove them from office. It sent shockwaves through the state legislature. That's how we got the attention. And they knew, and the legislature knew, you can't mess with parents in Williamson County. And we proved them right. But the way, with the issue of Nehemiah was able to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem in record time, 52 days. That stands as a testimony to us. He was one man, and he was able to engage and mobilize people to action. We are one, but we are collectively together a group, and we have a common interest, we have a common bond. I know we all have children, we have grandchildren, probably great-grandchildren. One day we are going to have to pass the baton of this republic to the generation. Will we find a generation that even knows how to take the responsibility of this republic and carry it forward to the next generation? We have not done a good job teaching our children and our children's children throughout their generations. It starts now. It starts by educating even our children and grandchildren. If you take a brochure, you go to our website, there are great films there, historical documentaries to talk about some of the issues that these kids, our children, our grandchildren, and great-grandchildren are reading about and studying in school. You have to sit down and engage, have a movie night with your kids, have a movie night in your community, and talk about what's happening. We are going to have, we are working on launching a training for textbook review. And if anybody here is interested in reviewing textbooks and then reporting and documenting, there's already a team in place that will help us to do this. And that's what I'm here to help you do, is to get engaged. So if you are interested in being involved in reviewing textbooks, it is time consuming, but look at the value.
We are.
There you go. Okay, we have two. We have two. But look at the value. You are doing a duty to save and protect this constitutional republic called the United States of America. So I want to open up for any questions. And the training, there was one training that just started last week, but they're going to have another training that starts in April. And I believe it's like a 5 or 6 week training. It's once a week. And you have to have some tech savvy because it's all done on the internet through a program called Basecamp. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but if you have a chance to just familiarize yourself with the technology, because that's what they use. Basecamp, basically what you do is you do the research. They'll give you the book. You have to document the book that you're researching. And what I do in my trainings, I ask the people, because a whole history textbook would take forever to review. I have our trainees just look at the comparative religion section to look to see how much Islam is covered compared to Christianity and Judaism, and how the three religions are covered. Are they fair, neutral, biased? The other part is the Arab-Israeli conflict, to look at that section of the textbook, to see how the Arab-Israeli conflict is portrayed, and then how America is portrayed in the textbooks. Does it portray an accurate perspective of history? Sometimes I even throw in the Barbary Pirates, because we all remember the Barbary Pirates, but you'd be amazed at what they're teaching, what they're not teaching our children about the Barbary Pirates. That they were the ones that were capturing our merchant vessels. They were Mohammedans, they were Muslims. You know, America has a long history of dealing with Islam, and it goes back to the Barbary Pirates. So I want to encourage you all to consider taking on this important task. And we'll hold your hand through the process. We just need people. We need eyes to actually have the time to go through these textbooks, review them, and then document what you found so that we can accurately cite and compile. So there are several groups in Florida that are working on this, and I'm going to be meeting with them next week in Sebring to try to bring all these groups together so we can launch a concise campaign. Our goal is to go district to district, county by county, and raise awareness and mobilize parents to action. Roy White, who will be overseeing the training for the textbook review, he's from Texas. So we've got people all over the country who are involved in this. In fact, in the training that you'll be in, there will be parents and citizens from all over the country who will be involved. So we're mobilizing the people in states that we're working in, like Florida, to get involved in this training program. Questions? Thoughts?
One in April?
I believe it's April 26th. I don't have the date, but what I would recommend again, if you don't have a brochure, please take one, go to the website, sign up, and in the comment section, there should be a place where you can say, interested in textbook training. And that way we'll put you on that specific list and we'll get you the information so that you can, yes sir.
When you mentioned Roy White, is that the guy who's running for governor?
No, Roy White is actually, he's a pilot with, he's actually retired Lieutenant Colonel Roy White.
Okay.
And he flies for Southwest Airlines now. But he helped spearhead the initiative in Texas to reevaluate textbooks and change some of the things in the textbooks there. But he's with Truth in Textbooks in Texas.
If you don't mind, Texas, from what I understand, most of the school books in the country come from Texas, and
That's
they
correct.
With liberal, the ones who print the books there.
Right, the liberal textbook publishers. The point that he just made is Texas is the largest purchaser of textbooks. They have the largest student population. So what happens is these other states that are smaller and don't have as big of a student population, they end up ordering the textbooks that Texas orders because they can save money. If you buy in bulk, you can save more money. So unfortunately, the textbooks don't get properly vetted with the states. As long as they fit certain criteria and the certain standards that the states have passed within their state legislature as it pertains to education, then they'll order those textbooks and they'll use them. But yes, that's why Texas is an important state when it comes to reviewing textbooks and making sure that we have historically accurate, unbiased textbooks that reflect the values of our communities. Any other questions? Yes, please, by all means.
When you first started to speak tonight about Williamson County?
Williamson County.
Right, Williamson County, and you mentioned that when you approached the school board that they hadn't read the book when you first presented it with the book, and then they read it afterwards, and they still ended up winning the re-election. My question is, if it's a school board's responsibility to read the books before they're issued to the kids, and that wasn't done.
Before they're voted to be approved to be used in the district.
So that wasn't done in this particular case, right? It wasn't done.
Well, let me share with you what my school board member said to me, because it is required that the school board members read the textbooks that are going to be used in the schools because they have to vote to approve them. And that's by law. And when I went to my school board member, who is a Christian, who actually he was a deacon in the church that I used to be a member of, and I asked him, Tim, did you not see this when you vetted this textbook, when you read it? He hem-hawed and said, oh, there's so much, we can't do it all. I said, you didn't read the whole textbook. He said, we couldn't possibly read the whole textbook. Okay. That's the response. That's the answer. They're not reading these textbooks. I'm sure in the state of Florida, I haven't read through with a fine-tooth comb what the law is, but I'll bet you it's similar, that the state of Florida, the Department of Education, has to adopt and approve textbooks, and then the school districts can use those same textbooks if they want, or the school districts can select their own textbooks. But the school board has to approve the curriculum because the curriculum or the textbooks have to comply with the state standards. A county school district can't go rogue and say we're not applying the state standards. They have to meet the state standards. So every school board member has to review and has to vote to approve those textbooks for their district.
And I'm only asking because I'm new to Florida, but it seems to me that if the standards aren't met, then federal funding can be taken away from the school district and everything. The state funding can be taken
The
away.
federal, yeah.
You threaten them with, you know.
The federal government is not supposed to have any say in our education.
All right,
in the
so
states.
So the state, then, if the state is, in other words, is it possible to withhold state funding from these school districts if they're not reading the books before they hand them out to the kids?
I don't know what the law here in Florida states as it pertains to that. If they're not, what are the penalties that the state of Florida will usher out on a district? It would be worth knowing and understanding that, but the bottom line is the reason why we are starting the process from the bottom, because I've had people say, well, why don't we just go to the state legislature and the Department of Education and tackle this problem? And I said to them, you lose the opportunity to expose on the way up. What this whole process of vetting textbooks is, yes, to make sure that the textbooks are accurate. It's also to expose the system. Yes.
Question, do we have, or do you have a list or possible group of textbooks that are good?
I met, this past September, I went to Hillsdale College to meet with Larry Arnn and with their director of curriculum. And we all know who Hillsdale is. Hillsdale, if you're not familiar, is the strict constitutional school. It's not a Christian school, it's a constitutional republic school. You want your kids to be, get involved in politics and continue on a conservative bent, you put them at Hillsdale. I met with the director of curriculum and asked her, I told her what we were doing, that I've been traveling from county to county, state to state, and parents and citizens are wanting to get engaged, but they want to know, what can we replace the curriculum, the textbooks, the history, geography, social studies with? I said, will Hillsdale sell the curriculum to these individual schools or these school districts? And she said, absolutely, but we don't use a lot of textbooks. Hillsdale uses original source material to teach their children. And of course, this is critically important because the original source is taking our kids back to the original source is important for them to have an accurate perspective of history, especially here in the United States. So it's important that you all know that option is available to us. Hillsdale will. In fact, the director told me that if teachers want to come up to Hillsdale, they have a training session over the summer to train teachers how to use their curriculum, how to use original source material to teach the students. It's a little bit more work. The other problem is it doesn't comply with Common Core state standards. So this is why we have to start from the bottom up. You have to expose, you have to wake up the community, and you do that by doing the PSAs, by letting parents and citizens know here in Broward County what's being taught to their children. Then you raise awareness on the state level after you go to the school board and you raise awareness there. And it's a long process, but what's happening, you're not the only county. You're not the only school district. This is happening all over the state of Florida. You just don't know it because groups like us are meeting all over the place. Like I said, I've been invited to 12 counties, and there are other groups that are going to other counties that are meeting with parents and citizens just like us to talk about how we can take back control of our education system. Yes, sir.
How about some of our groups volunteer to aid the school boards in reviewing the school tax?
Absolutely, that's a great idea. And in Tennessee, we were able to get our governor to appoint citizens to sit on the state Tennessee Textbook Commission. So not only did they have educators on that, they also had local citizens from across the state from the 3 grand divisions. But on the local level, yes, you should ask your school board when it comes time to review textbooks, what does it take? You know, what do you as citizens have to do in order to get on that list so that you can also vet the textbooks as well? But understand, you're working with the political beast, and they don't want change, and they don't want parents and citizens to find out what they're doing. That's why our kids don't come home with homework anymore. They've added an extra hour to our children's day in school, and this is across the board. They've added an extra day so that the kids have their study sessions, they call it, and there's a teacher in those study sessions that will help those students get their homework done. But the homework doesn't come home, and the parents never see what the children are being taught, unless the child is smart enough to say, this isn't right, and I know my parents would be ticked off if they knew that this is what they were teaching us. And that's how we're finding out about the content, because the kids are bringing it home. They're sneaking it home. They're taking pictures of it, because here's the other thing. They won't let the materials go home. They're citing copyright laws. Oh no, somebody might copy it, and especially tests. Somebody might share the tests, and somebody will have access to it, and then kids will be cheating. Cheating. Since when did we care about cheating? We give our kids calculators to figure out the math problems. I mean, remember when we were in school, calculators were cheating.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, you had a question.
First, a statement. Our school board here is all Democrats, so the only way you can help them is be a Democrat. But when was these school books come to your attention? That got a second part to the question.
2012 was when we found, that's when we became aware that there was a problem with the textbooks.
The reason I'm asking is if you remember back to 2008, the affordable health care, how they read that real well. So when they don't read it at the top, what makes you think the school board down below is going to bother you wanting to read anything?
That's exactly right. Yes, sir.
That's why I said we should have volunteers, because not only are they Democrats, but they're lazy. And if they are,
There's some lazy Republicans too. I have to confess, you guys, where there's laziness to go around on both sides of the aisle.
yeah, well, as politicians, especially as I see here, they're bought very cheap too.
Yes.
That's another story.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is basically if you go in and say, well, you don't say what party you're in, you just say, I'd just like to help.
Right.
Can I help you look through these textbooks?
Thank you. And you know what? School board position is nonpartisan. You're not supposed to know whether you're a D or an R.
Well, down here they do, and they listed on the ballot.
No, they don't.
I thought they did. I know they say they're running as a Democrat.
They do not.
That's interesting, because when it comes to the school board, it's supposed to be, so good point. We don't want to talk about whether we're Republican or Democrat. We just are concerned about the content, what is being taught to our children. And so therein lies, but there is a whole strategy, and it's step by step as to what you have to do next. But the first step, you have to sign up, you have to be willing and committed to get involved in this process. And again, I want to encourage you to go to our website, sign up to become a reviewer of the textbooks, and then we will connect you with Roy White so that he can take you through the training process. He'll be there to hold your hand, walk you through, so you're not doing it alone. Don't feel like it's too big of a problem and I can't do it. Because we all can do, like I said, we can all do something. Yes, sir.
One more question. Have you been able to speak at churches and synagogues?
Absolutely. This is the message that I bring both to Jews and to Christians, and let me tell you why. Look at the rise of anti-Semitism. How many of you follow anti-Semitism and the rise? We saw it in 67% in the United States in 1 year, ADL reported. We've seen it in Europe. We've expected it in Europe. Look at Germany. Germany doesn't know what to do now with all these immigrants that have come through. They are the ones that are fueling the anti-Semitism that they're seeing in Germany. And Germany now is looking at passing a resolution in the Bundestag to remove immigrants who hold anti-Semitic views. This is huge for them. But anti-Semitism is on the rise. But what else is on the rise? Christian persecution. Don't you find it interesting that our enemy, the radical Islamic extremists, are very clear about who they're coming after? The Saturday people and the Sunday people. The pigs and the apes. The great Satan and the little Satan. What is it that they know that we don't? We're in this battle together. It is our Judeo-Christian values that they hate and they want to destroy and they want to rob from us. But we have to, as two communities, we have to unite together to uphold justice and uphold righteousness. Justice, justice, thou must pursue. We're commanded.